It is 5:30 p.m. and I now call to order the Grand Island Public Schools Board of Education meeting. This is the May 8th, 2025 meeting. Notice of this meeting has been advertised in the Grand Island Independent, which is the district's designated method of giving notice of these meetings. We want those in attendance to know that copies of the Open Meetings Act are available at the entrance to the boardroom. If anyone in attendance is interested in addressing our board, you are welcome to do so. We simply request that you complete the appropriate form and turn it into us so that you may be recognized during the request to address the board part of our meeting. If you have not already completed the form, please see the staff person outside the entrance to this room. Public comment is welcome. We do ask that no signs be brought into the boardroom. Mrs. Dibbert, would you please call the roll?
Mr. McFarland.
Present.
Mr. Hawley and Mr. Garcia Mendez have given prior notice of their absence. Mrs. Albers. Present. Mr. Sykes. Here. Mr. Barsonas. Yes. Mrs. Douglas. Here. Mrs. Wilson. Here. Mrs. Goodman.
Here. Perfect. Perfect. The first item on the agenda tonight is the consent agenda. The consent agenda is to be approved as follows: items 3.1 through 3.8, and I do believe we have a couple people who will be abstaining from checks. So if you would, please, Ms. Albers.
I will be abstaining from voting on check number 100328. On agenda item 3.3, I approve all other items on the consent agenda.
Thank you. Mr. Barsonas.
I will be abstaining from voting on check numbers 100192, 100391, 100471 on agenda item 3.3, and I approve all the items in the consent agenda as submitted.
This is the consent agenda as published. Would anyone like to remove any items or add any items to the consent agenda? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion at this time to approve the consent agenda. Ms. Albers.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda as submitted.
Second by Mr. Barsonas. Discussion? Seeing none, you may proceed to a vote. Motion passes. Special recognition. Items 4.1, Ms. Kamelka and Ms. Hirschman will present the winners of the NE Educational Technology Association's Spring Conference Student Competition.
I have a winner for the K-5 video category. She made a project to go with a golden soar book we did, Agatha May and the Anglerfish. She drew an anglerfish in one program and then imported it into another program where she added a mouth to the fish and used her voice to add facts about the fish. And the video looked like the fish was talking and told facts about that she learned from the book from the Anglerfish. And she's just a kindergartner, and it's Harper Jackson. Harper, come on up. So she was the K-5 video winner. Comes in right up here. Good job.
Good evening. I'm Deanna Hirschman. I'm the media specialist at Gates Elementary, and the Nebraska Educational Technology Association holds its spring conference each year in May. One of the features of the conference is a student technology contest. Noel Montez, a 5th grade student at Gates Elementary, is being honored tonight for placing first in the coding and gaming category. He created an advanced musical track on code.org featuring coding skills he had learned throughout our coding unit. Students had opportunities to use a variety of different instruments and popular musical tracks to create their own unique musical track. Congratulations to Noel.
Stay right there. We'll take your picture. Okay, stay right there. Move over a little bit, over here a little bit. There you go.
Perfect. All right.
Go ahead and get, oops,
Everyone,
I'm sorry. Go ahead and
everyone
get yours first.
smile. All right, 1, 2, 3. All right, go for it, Val. I'm sorry. And then parents, if you want to come up and get a picture, you sure can.
Okay, next we move on to subject item number 4.2, Path Back Program Recognition. Mr. Brian Court.
Thanks, Mr. McFarland. We're here to recognize two of our high school seniors that are going to graduate here in a couple days that are Path Back Award winners. I'm going to let them introduce themselves to you guys, but a quick story on them is when I got the results, I reached out to the administration of the high school and Dr. Schumacher, and then one of the first things they said was, great kids. These are two of the best kids we have going into education. So felt like we hit a couple of home runs here with these two young ladies. So I'll let them introduce themselves, tell you where they're going to go to school and what they're going to major in.
My name is Chloe Lopez. I'm going to Wayne State College and I'm majoring in elementary education.
My name is Faith Diaz. I'm going to Hastings College and majoring in elementary education.
Any questions for them? All right, we're done.
Okay.
Certificates and one more photo op. Y'all can go up there. Okay. If you want, they'll hand you certificates, then we'll take your picture one more time. All right, do one more picture. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. All right, parents, yeah, families, everybody, come on up.
Okay, we did not have any requests to address the board, so we'll skip item number 5 and move on to item number 6. Information items. GIPS Foundation is accepting a generous donation from Allo Communications to benefit the students of GIPS.
Awesome. Well,
Ms. Carrie Hooker Leap.
thank you. Well, this is the best thing that I do. And the most fun is I get to accept a huge donation tonight. So I'm going to invite up John Watts, Ramirez, and Janessa Florian. They're from Allo. And they're going to tell a little bit about the program that was Allo for Education and present us with a check.
Yes.
John, would you like to speak?
Yeah, thank you so much. Appreciate the time. My name is John Watts. I serve as a regional general manager for Allo Fiber. And a really unique program that we get to do is called Allo for Education. And so basically 2 months, November through December, your constituents can choose you, should they sign up for Allo for a $50 donation. And you have the largest check in my region, so I don't know what that says about the school, quality of your schools, but I think that's exciting. So we are here to present you with a check on behalf of Allo Fiber, and thank you so much for supporting our kids and all you do in our communities. And I do have to tell you, I served 6 years on the school board, 2 during COVID, so those count as more, right? So really appreciate it. I'm gonna check.
So the check is for $650. And I didn't do the math, so that's $50.
Over 70 folks.
Yeah.
Just a rough finance.
Oops, sorry.
All right, everybody smile.
His camera's way fancier than mine. Awesome.
They have all these kids we can give them balloons to.
I'll be seconding every.
Okay, next up on our agenda, we have item 6.2, policy. So, Mr. Fisher.
Well, everyone can settle in for a little bit of exciting policy. That's about all we have going on here for the next few items. But anyhow, we'll start out with first policy on workplace privacy, and take a look at that one quick. These are the policies that are again on first read. Not a lot of changes in this Workforce Policy Act. Basically, there's a place or two we had to eliminate a the, and then down towards the bottom part of the policy, we are proposing to strike the statement including the district's internet use policy and or practice, and just leave it as procedures and guidelines. Again, as we change the naming and different things that we might be using rather than the internet use policy, I think, and you can see down below that the policy 6213 is now staff use of electronic communication devices. So again, just in order to avoid future conflicts, if we don't name anything in that point, then that helps us avoid not aligning with other policies that might have a name change at some time in the future. So, questions about that one at all? All right. Then we will move on to certified staff records. More exciting stuff here. All right, 6260, and here primarily the only thing that is getting changed is, rather than talking about the executive director of human resources, the current name that we're using for that position is chief of human capital management. And so we would be proposing to change the name to match what we're using for that naming practice in other areas. And other than that, there's just a couple other small changes there. If you look at the bottom or the end of the first paragraph, instead of saying personnel records files, probably just personnel records is more correct terminology there. And then the same thing in the start of the next paragraph, where it talks about for the daily administration of the school district. So just daily administration of the district rather than designating as a school district. Otherwise, the other change that's in there is, again, just a change in the name of the director of our HR department. Questions on that one? All right, moving right along. Elementary certified staff preparation time. Again, really no real change here. as you look at this, there's a "the" to start things off that we're going to eliminate. And then the only other thing that we're proposing to change here is where we're at the end of the second paragraph talking about non-student contact time during. Previously it said music and physical education instruction. Well, we actually have other pieces that we all consider specials. And so changing that to just the terminology specials instruction rather than naming those specifics should, again, be a little more general. And so as those different pieces change, then we'd, again, be in line. And so having it as a general statement rather than naming specifics is probably a better practice there. In the end, I think the main piece is that last piece that talks about scheduling a minimum of 100 hours of elementary preparation time, I think is one of the major intents of this policy. Questions on that one? Okay. Non-school employment by certified staff. This basically is a policy that addresses just expectations for those staff members that are going to do work outside of their normal school work. Again, there's just a couple of places where the is eliminated. Otherwise, the policy remains intact. Questions on that? Okay, certified staff salary schedule. This is not the actual salary schedule. This is just a policy that makes some statements about the salary schedule. And again, really no proposed changes here other than the elimination of the at the start of this. And then later on, there's the added in there. And actually, as I read this earlier, I think when we did this, we put the in the wrong place. In order to assist in the hiring, I think it should be in order to assist in hiring the most qualified. I think the went on the wrong side when we put that in there. So we will change that before we do the final read on that. Questions on that at all? All righty. Then we will move on to classified staff compensation. And just a couple wording changes here. Some thes that we're crossing out there. And then at the end of that first line, to be paid for the support classified staff positions. Well, we don't really talk about them as being support classified. We really talk about them as being classified positions. So the feeling would be that we could eliminate both the and support. And then rather than continually saying of the GIPS, basically we put that all together as a single statement. So to be paid for classified staff positions, keeping in mind the education and experience of the classified staff member, the educational philosophy, the financial condition, and any other conditions as deemed relevant by Grand Island Public Schools. So really no change in the intent of the policy at all, just a little bit of change in the wording. Questions? Okay, and this last one is actually the one that has some pretty significant changes. And in actuality, what we're proposing here is an elimination of the existing policy, which you would see down below here that is struck through. And again, this was a very prescriptive policy that probably included a lot of procedure along with the policy. And then you go on down to there's a second policy here that really includes the forms that would be utilized. Again, we've been moving towards trying to be more broad in our policies. And a lot of what we've been doing is adopting policies that we've got from the Perry Law Firm. So as we started looking at this one and seeing the prescriptiveness of it, I asked the Perry Law Firm to provide what they had in terms of policy for this, and that's actually the policy that is listed at the beginning of this. that is not struck through. So what we're doing is proposing to change to the policy provided by Perry Law Firm. Oh, that's the wrong one. It's the wrong one. Oh, it will? Oh, I didn't know that. All right. Guess it was going to die. Okay. So again, this policy really contains all of the information, but it has all of the updates in terms of what, what we might expect. And again, it doesn't have the specifics as far as the exact immunizations. It's more referencing what the statute requires rather than naming specifics. So, questions about that one?
Oh, Ms. Albers.
So when I first read this, that last line on the first paragraph, and Josh Sykes and I visited about this a little bit, failure to provide a birth certificate does not result in non-enrollment or disenrollment, but may result in a referral to local law enforcement for investigation. And I talked to Mr. Fisher about this before the meeting out as well, but I felt like that last statement was a little severe, perhaps alarmist, and especially in light of our current political situation. And I was more afraid of a fear of families if they felt like they couldn't come to school because they didn't have a birth certificate. And then just because of how it reads. But Josh and I were talking about it a little bit, and really I think what that's trying to get at is more in situations where children might be being trafficked and they're going to be in school. And but I don't think that statement addresses that. And so just because of so much fear mongering, I think it's kind of important to make sure we have the right wording on that statement, or as Mr. Fisher had said, just do away with the statement, because if we think a child is in danger, of course, we're going to get the authorities involved anyway. So can you just speak to that a little bit, please?
Yeah, absolutely. As the policy says, we're not going to not allow a student to enroll or force them to unenroll if they don't have that birth certificate. And so I think when you look at that legal statement, regardless of what the intent for that was, and I think the trafficking could very well be an intent there, but the reality is, just like you said, if we feel like there's a reason to involve law enforcement, we certainly don't need to state that in policy. And so I think probably the policy would read just fine if we eliminated that whole statement that's in parentheses there, as far as the failure to provide may result in the non-enrollment or disenrollment. I think the reality is we really don't need that statement in there, and so I think it would be perfectly fine to leave that part about involving law enforcement out.
Could I comment to that?
Sure.
Thank you. So in relationship to that wording, I think we can take a look at that, but it is actually the law, and we are required within 30, if we do not have a birth certificate or a process, which we have all of our social workers help people get what they need, we are required to report it to law enforcement. Lee and West do that. They don't do the check, but they report it, so that is part of the law. But we could work on the wording.
So what's the follow-up with that?
So at 30 days, our schools provide parents letters about getting a birth certificate. And then actually the process here that we use is Lee and Wes actually calendar the date once they've been notified by the schools that wasn't available. And then they contact law enforcement per the law for them to do the investigation on to ensure that they're not on a missing child find type, but it is the law to do it. So that's the piece that I would recommend. We could work on the wording so that it doesn't appear as threatening or as scary. But I think eliminating it would actually be not in the best interest of the board.
Thank
that
you.
part.
Thank you. I appreciate that perspective. Thank you.
It's good information. Thanks for sharing, Dr. Stevens. So we will go back and take a look at this with the committee and like I said, there's probably some ways that we can word that still covers what we're legally responsible for and maybe provides that in a little less worrisome manner. So, okay, anything else on that?
Just for clarification, you did say that social workers are working with the parents, so we do have a process in place, not just the letters and.
To order a birth certificate, to find them a birth certificate, to, in some instances with FIT, with our students who are in transition, actually to help pay for the documents as well. Because oftentimes when you order from Vital Records, you have to pay however much, $5, $10, what have you. But they will help people complete that request.
Perfect, thank you. That's it.
Anything else around that? All right, that is all of the information policies.
Okay. On to action item number 7.1, staff ethics. Mr. Fisher.
All right, more policy. We need to start having some other items just so I get a break. All right, the staff ethics policy, it looks like we've made a lot of changes here. In reality, all we have changed is the verbiage. We felt like the tense should match in each of the items that are listed there. So we cross out a few thes up above, and then when you get down to item 1, 2, 3, 4, so on, each of those, basically we just changed it so that they had the same tense as we were talking about those. We really didn't change anything other than 5. 5 was eliminated. That statement about the realization that all hiring and promotion must be based solely on characteristics of merit. Again, as we went through that, we felt like that wasn't necessarily a statement that needed to be made in policy. That's probably that's the whole characteristics of merit is somewhat subjective. So probably to have something that's hard and fast in policy isn't necessarily the right way to represent that. So questions on that as far as anything there? And like I said, other than that, really none of the intent of the policy was changed at all. It was just a matter of the wording. Any questions on that one?
Make a motion to approve policy 6210, staff ethics as presented.
Second by Ms. Albers. Discussion? Seeing none, you may proceed to a vote. Motion passes.
Okay, policy 6212 on staff professional appearance. Again, not any significant changes made here. The elimination of one "the," and then down in the latter part of the second paragraph, there was a statement made about in good taste, and we felt like probably appropriate was a better term than in good taste. And then the last sentence there was eliminated because it is a third repetition of basically the same statement. So felt like we could probably get by with saying it twice. Questions on that one?
Make a motion to approve policy 6212, staff professional appearance as presented.
Second by Ms. Wilson. Discussion? Seeing none, you may proceed to a vote. Motion passes.
Okay, 6232, use of tobacco and vape products. There's the first change is right there in the title. So we felt like in this day and age with the things that we're dealing with right now, vape products certainly being as much or more of a concern than tobacco, that we really needed to add that right from the title on. And so really as you read through the policy, what changes is just, again, rather than an occasion, there was one mention of vape products in it before. In the proposed policy, basically everywhere that it was saying tobacco before, it's also going to say vape or vapor products. Otherwise, the policy really, the intent of the policy is entirely the same. It's just a matter of, I guess, strengthening that reference to vape products. Questions on that?
Make a motion to approve policy 6232, use of tobacco and vapor products by staff, visitors, and volunteers as presented.
Second by Ms. Albers. Discussion? Seeing none, you may proceed to a vote. Motion passes.
Okay, policy 6241, staff participation in political activities. Start out with eliminating a the, and then as we get into the second paragraph, there's a the there also needing eliminated, but the second sentence there, activities that are prohibited include. We just started a second sentence instead of going on with a comma and then including. But really the intent is basically the same. And then at the end of there, distribution of such material to or by students are specifically prohibited. Felt like that was already covered in what was said before. Questions on that?
Make a motion to approve policy 6241, staff participation in political activities as presented.
Second by Ms. Albers. Discussion? Seeing none, you proceed to a vote. Motion passes.
Okay, finally, policy 6251, internet safety for students. Again, change right in the beginning, so rather than just having staff included in parentheses, our proposal would be to make this internet safety for students and staff. And then as you look through there are a few changes up in that first paragraph. Will be used to block and filter. That would be a little bit redundant because blocking and filtering are really the same thing. So the proposal would be just to say used to filter. And then down below, Mr. Gearhart went through and really, basically eliminated some of the bullet points that felt like were not as accurate as the bullet points that they were replaced with. So again, it's just a matter of, being, again, general, but putting down some specifics in terms of the things that we would be looking at there. And then finally, there's a the towards the end of this. And then it changed the references somewhat down below there in terms of the policies that were referenced for this. Questions on that one?
Make a motion to approve policy 6251, internet safety for students and staff as presented.
Second by Ms. Albers. Discussion? Seeing none, may proceed to a vote. Motion passes.
Hey, Matt. I got a quick question. Sorry, because sometimes I process half bit slow. Owen had a really good point about Zen products that aren't necessarily tobacco, but they contain nicotine on policy 6232. I don't know if that's, I should have thought of that sooner. And I don't know if that's anything we need to give consideration or if we need to look at it again one more month. That's, okay. And so, he gets credit,
Okay.
that's why,
We'll give Owen credit for
Yeah.
bringing up the Zen smokeless vapor products.
well, it's not, in the pouches, and I don't think there's necessarily tobacco in them. And if we're wanting it, to make sure that we're covering all the bases on that. That was a really good point. And I literally, when we went through that, I was like, all right, we got vape products, it's all covered, but I don't stay up to date on all of that stuff, so.
Okay.
So I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do with that, but
Would it fall
I
under-
was processing while we were
We'll
it
just
was already
bring it
passed. Okay.
Does it fall under alternative nicotine products? Because it is a nicotine product. So does that cover it?
Is that, let me
I think
let me
it's-
see.
It
Did
would
it
be
say
an
alternative nicotine?
product.
Vapor products, alternative nicotine products, tobacco product lookalikes, and products intended to
Oh,
replicate
yes,
tobacco.
we're good. We're good. It says alternative nicotine products.
It is a nicotine product.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that'd be alternative.
It's an alternative
Lookalike,
nicotine.
Or smoke.
That's covered in an alternative nicotine product. It's covered in there. So,
And also it says, and products intended to replicate tobacco products
yep.
by either appearance or effect, so.
Yeah, I think we're good. I think we're good.
Okay,
Okay.
good point.
Okay, on to reports. Item 8.1, the Grand Island Public Schools Foundation Report. Ms. Lisa Alpers.
The foundation is excited to see the class of 2025 walk in the graduation ceremonies on May 11th. The foundation will host a press conference announcing the totals of the staff giving campaign on Monday, May 12th at 4:30 at the Bill Marshall Conference Room, Memorial Stadium, Jack Martin Field. The foundation will release nomination forms for the 2025 Teacher, Staff Member, and Administrator of the Year awards. The nominees will receive their nominations by May 15th through email. The foundation board will meet on May 13th. That is the end of my report.
Thank you, Ms. Alvers. Questions for Ms. Alvers? Seeing none, we move on to item number 8.2, the Student Representative Report. Owen, floor is yours.
All right, so I'll just start off my report with some activities. To start, tomorrow night is the start of district play for our baseball team. They finished the regular season with a record of 17-8. The boys soccer team finished their season up last night, and they ended as district runner-ups. The boys and girls track teams have districts on May 13th in Norfolk. The girls tennis team has the hack tournament on Friday, May 16th. And boys golf has districts Monday, May 19th. Then for around GIPS, earlier this month, GISH seniors were able to give their capstone presentations, and they got to show what they learned throughout the year in a career path that they're interested in. And the capstone class is kind of a great way for students to go out into the community and learn more about those career paths that they've found interesting during high school. And the project is really just a nice way to end their experience in their academy. Then earlier today was class day for GISH seniors. So we started off our morning at the stadium with donuts and juice. Then we went into the auditorium and we got to honor seniors that were going to enlist in the military. We got to play some games, and then we reflected on highlights of some of the just cool things that seniors have done. So I got to share, like, of all the stuff I put on this report over the past 8 months, I got to share the top 10 things to them, which was really cool because it got to be all about them. So, and then we went to Heartland Event Center and we did our rehearsal for graduation. And speaking of graduation, that's going to be on Sunday from 2 to 4 at the Heartland Event Center. And there is about 540 graduates graduating on Sunday. So this week marked the first week of AP testing for students across the nation. Here at GISH, we have about 15 different AP courses, and they give the students the opportunity to push themselves and earn some college credit for free. And then, hopefully, like you've all seen, I brought in a treat, a cookie for all you guys, thanks to Purely Chocolate. So Purely Chocolate is one of the many businesses created in the entrepreneurship pathway at GISH. Purely Chocolate was created earlier this year by 4 sophomore girls, and they currently have 4 different cookie flavors and have constantly been working on widening their menu and honing their recipes. And if you're interested in buying something else from them or checking them out, they have an account on Instagram called Purely Chocolate. So thank you to them. My staff shout out for the month goes to Mr. Cloutier, who has had the largest impact on me out of all of my teachers. I chose my college major of economics due to how much I enjoyed both his micro and macroeconomics classes. And I feel like his classes have prepared me for college better than any of the other classes I've taken at GIPS, just because of the way he lectures and he teaches the course content. Anyone that's had Mr. Cloutier will likely agree with me when I say that he's a strict but fair teacher. He makes his expectations known and he enforces them consistently. And while his expectations may be high, he's always there to help his students. The way Mr. Cloutier prepares his students for life after high school goes beyond just teaching a curriculum. He prepares students for adulthood by really treating them like adults and giving them freedom, but also giving them a little bit higher of the expectations, kind of like I talked about. But at the same time, his nerdy humor always reminds you to never take yourself too seriously. So thank you, Mr. Cloutier, for the impact that you've made on me and my fellow students over your years at GIPS, and we're looking forward to many more. So that concludes my school board report, but before I go, I have a few groups to thank. First, my fellow classmates whose support has given me this opportunity throughout the year to serve on the school board. And next, I'd like to thank all of the presenters and community members whose perspectives gave me a lot of insight into areas of our school district that I really had no idea about. Finally, I'd like to thank all of you school board members. You've treated me with such kindness and have always answered my many questions. So thank you. And with that, I'm willing to answer any of your questions about my report. Thanks.
All right, well, thank you, Owen, very much. On to item 8.3, the superintendent report.
Well, I think I'll start my report with thanking Owen, because I think Owen's done a great job of representing the students as the student board member, and certainly want to thank him for everything that he's done. I think he's really brought some great perspective. I think that his staff shout outs have been I think a great way to show the impact that different people have working in different roles here in the schools on students. So we certainly appreciate that, and thanks, and we wish you the best, Owen. Other than that, just to add on to, Owen mentioned the graduation. For board members that are going to be able to attend the graduation, we would like to have you there about 1:30. We'll assemble in the Bosselman Conference Center on the west side of the Heartland Event Center. One of the things that I know is going to be an issue for graduation this year is parking, because a lot of the parking lot is torn up. And so the Fauner Park and the Heartland Event Center have been great to work with us, and making sure that the areas on the west side of Fauner Park that are used for the state fair will be open. Mr. Hubbard has arranged for us to have a couple of our little white buses shuttling people in from those parking lots. So I think it'll be fine, but it won't be as handy as it would be on a normal year. Owen talked about spring sports. Along with spring sports, one of the other things that we have a lot going on right now with is music. A lot of spring concerts taking place. Certainly the high school concerts, but I think all the middle school band, orchestra, vocal are all having concerts as well as a number of the elementary buildings having concerts and really some different spring activities going on. So a lot on the agenda right now in terms of those spring activities wrapping up. Our parent advisory group met earlier this week, and as we did with the key communicators last month, we shared a little bit about the GIPS Academy concept. And I think we've got positive feedback from both those groups, so that's probably something that we're going to spend some time working to develop throughout the summer months, and hopefully have an academy structure pulled together to go into next school year. One of the things that is on the horizon that I would point out to board members that you might want to consider taking in if you're available. We have the apprentice signing day on the 13th of May here. So next Tuesday, I think that's the 13th, 2 in the afternoon out at CPI. If you haven't been to that apprentice internship signing day, it's a pretty neat day. That's all the different employers come, and basically they do just like a sports signing day where the students are basically signing their agreement to go to do an apprenticeship with the different employers. So that's kind of a neat one. I wanted to mention the capstones. Again, that's those capstone, I think, classes really do create a great opportunity for students to really, delve into, some of the, professions that they might be interested in, and part of that too then is they have to do research around some question that they have about that area of employment. And so having them do their presentations about the research that they've done and the things that they've learned through their experience is it's really a kind of a neat opportunity for interaction with students. So again, just something to put on your radar for future years if you ever get a chance to take in those capstones. Those are always pretty neat days. Otherwise, I wanted to mention retirement receptions. Several of you were able to attend the GIEA reception that was last night, and I think very well done, and always neat to see not only those teachers that are retiring, but also recognize teachers for their continued service in the district. We recognize 25 and 30-year people last night, and obviously when you have that kind of longevity in the district, that's hopefully a really good thing for those people. It's been a good place to be, but it's also a good sign for the district. And then the other retirement reception that I wanted to remind you about is next Monday, the 12th. We have the reception that we put on for all GIPS retirees. That would be both teachers and classified staff members. That will be at 5 o'clock at the hideout out at the Bosselman's Center. And I think that was just about everything that I had on my report that Owen didn't already cover. So, questions anyone would have about anything there? All right.
Looks like we're good. Okay, item number 9, executive session for the purpose of negotiations because it's in the best interest of the public to discuss this matter in closed session. At this time, I would entertain a motion to break for executive session.
I'd like to make a motion, a recommendation for the board to convene to executive session for the purpose of discussing negotiations because it is in the best interest of the public to discuss this matter in closed session.
Second by Mr. Barsonis. Discussion? Seeing none. We proceed to a vote. Motion passes. Official time is now 6:18. We are removed to executive session. is that item 11 on there then?
We want to go 10 first and then 11, yeah.
Okay, at this point, I would entertain a motion to reconvene the session.
Recommendation to the board reconvene from the executive session?
A second.
Second by Ms. Douglas. Any discussion? Seeing none. Proceed to the vote. Motion passes. Time is now 6:42. We are back into regular session. Okay, item number 11. Possible approval of wages and salaries for classified and administrative employees as a result of the executive session. This time I would entertain a motion to approve the wages and salaries for classified and administrative employees.
I'll make a motion to approve the wages and salaries for classified and administrative employees as presented.
Second by Ms. Albers. Discussion. Seeing none, I proceed to a vote. Motion passes. Okay, notification of upcoming board meetings. The regular Board of Education meeting will be held Thursday,